Welcome to another wonderful calendar episode from Numbering the Days channel. It's week 30 and includes a very special event. It's called the Great Eighth Day. It's also known as Shemini Atzeret, or the Eighth Assembly. If you are new to Torah or not familiar with the Old Testament, you may never have heard of this biblical feast day. In the traditional scriptures, it is first recorded during the events of the Exodus in two places. Numbers 29, verse 35, it's recorded as, "On the 8th day ye shall have a solemn assembly. Ye shall do no servile work therein." It's also recorded in Leviticus chapter 23, verse 36. It reads, 7 days ye shall offer an offering made by fire unto Yeshua. On the 8th day shall be a holy convocation unto you, and ye shall offer an offering made by fire unto Yeshua. It is a solemn assembly, and ye shall do no servile work therein. Now the 7 days in this verse that it's referring to at the beginning is the Feast of Tabernacles, also known as Sukkot. The 8th day is a separate holy convocation, just like it reads here. Remember, the punctuation has been added, so this is an 8th day feast that's separate. Now today's Jewish people celebrate this feast day as Shemini Atzeret. And there have been discussions in that community for a long time, as they have kept records debating just what to do with the day, as the traditional scriptures really do not give a clear meaning nor instructions other than to make an offering. And this is very well documented online. You can go and look up all kinds of articles about wondering and telling you what they've decided to do on this day. If you read the verses here in Leviticus 23 and believe this is where the first instructions for the day were recorded, you'd almost think it was just an 8th day of the same festival. But that just may not be where the 8th day was first written down and celebrated, and that's what this video is about. After our short review of the few events this week, we are going to do a deep dive into comparing Genesis and Jubilees. Just like we did last week for Tabernacles, we're going to do the same thing now and discover when the Great Eighth Day was first celebrated and how it came to be. So let's get started. Okay, it's week 30 on the creation calendar, and we're going to review the days this week just like we do every week. We're in the 30th week of the year. We start off with the 204th day of the year, and it's called the Great Eighth Day. And the first thing on our calendar that we see through time is Jacob's name was changed to Yasharel, or Israel. This is recorded both in Jubilees chapter 32 and Genesis chapter 35, verses 9 through 15. He was the first to celebrate this, and he called it an addition. Now, I'm going to go through, there's some details here on the screen, but we're going to read through Jubilees as soon as I finish the week, so I'm just going to keep going. Now, during the Exodus with Moses and the children of Yasharel in the wilderness, in year 1, the tabernacle hadn't been built yet. If you have followed our channel and all the Moedim feast videos that we do, you'll know that they had received the instructions to build it, and there's no evidence that they observed it or not. I mean, we have Leviticus 23 and Numbers 29 that we're going to read, and so I would think possibly they kept it, but we don't know. Because we like to put things in here in the references for you on exactly when it says somebody did something. I've provided a link for you on reading how the traditional Jewish observances are held today. Year 2, Moses and the children in the wilderness, they would have had a tabernacle at this point. They're in the second year, and it would have existed, but there's no records kept of them celebrating it either. So I have question marks on things. Okay, King Solomon is the next one to be recorded as holding the solemn assembly on the 8th day in 2 Chronicles. Then the prophet Ezra is next in line. He's in Jerusalem, and they hold the solemn assembly in Nehemiah chapter 8, verse 18. Then we have the possible circumcision of Yeshua on the great 8th day. And this would be according to Michael Rood's book, The Chronological Gospels, which we do recommend, but it is based upon the lunar calendar. And I personally don't believe that this is when he was circumcised. And if you watch our Moedim Feast videos, you'll see when I think he was circumcised. We've put that into the calendar in the past. Okay. But in the first year of Yahushua's ministry, he is going into the feast. It's recorded in John chapter 7, into the temple. We're going to read about that also in a few minutes, so I'm going to just keep going. There was a great song I came across just this year on the Living Waters, and I put a link in here for that. Okay, the day after, which would be the 23rd, it's recorded in Jubilees and in Genesis that Rebekah's nurse called Deborah died and was buried under an oak tree by the river. And this is a very important type and shadow related to the great 8th day, and I'm going to discuss it next week, not this week. You'll find out why. Okay, on the 23rd, King Solomon sent everybody home after the feasting. That's recorded in 2 Chronicles. On the next day, the 24th, Ezra in his day and time is leading the people in a confession of their sins and a renewing of the covenant. That's recorded in Nehemiah chapters 9 and 10. And the rest of the week is absolutely empty. So we're going to head on to the discussion of the great 8th day. Welcome to the teaching section of this video on the great 8th day. I want to review first a verse that used to be in the King James Version in 1611 in the Apocrypha, but the book was removed later, so most people have never read 2nd Esdras. But in 2nd Esdras 6:9, it says, "For Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth." I felt that was a really interesting verse, because today we're going to be talking about Jacob, and what is he the beginning of? Jacob is the beginning, and Esau is the end. I find that interesting, because Abraham was the first, he and Sarah, to flee from Egypt and celebrate for 7 days her release from captivity. And Abraham built tabernacles. They celebrated again, and that was in last week's video, so go watch week 29. That Abraham is building tabernacles. So he was the first to do that. So what did Jacob become the beginning of? Through the Book of Jubilees, we found out that, well, you know this from Genesis 2. He has 12 sons that became the 12 tribes. He's the beginning of that. He is also the one that started atonement. In our video on atonement, I'll put a link in the description, we showed how Jacob was the beginning of that day. And now in this video, I'm going to show you through Jubilees and Genesis how he was the beginning of the great 8th day feast, right after Tabernacles. So I'm going to switch now to the Book of Jubilees and let's start reading. So what you see on the screen is from a study that we've done. It's 250 some odd pages long, and it's all about comparing Genesis and Jubilees for the story of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And I'm starting here at Jubilees on the right-hand side. Genesis, when I can match them up, is going to be on the left. And I'm starting in Jubilees chapter 32 and verse 4. And on the 15th day of this month, the 7th month, so we're talking Tabernacles, he brought to the altar all these things as an offering to Yah. And this was his offering in the consequence of the vow which he had vowed that he would give a tenth. Remember Jacob, when he started on his journey, when his mother and father sent him off to go to Laban to find a wife, Yeshua in Jubilees gave him a vow. Yeshua put it in his heart to do the vow. Note, put it in his heart to make a vow that if he was returned home safely to his father with all his possessions and his family, then he would give 10%. That was the vow. So this was his offering. See, because he's come home at Tabernacles to be with his family, returned to his father, and he's paying his vow. And when the fire had consumed which he had vowed that he would give a tenth, the drink offerings, and when the fire had consumed it, he burnt incense over it. Now he's just following in the footsteps of Abraham and Isaac. They do the same thing in Jubilees. Verse 7. And he and his sons and his men were eating this with joy during the 7 days, and blessing and thanking Yah, who had delivered him, had, past tense, delivered him out of his tribulation, and had given him his vow. You see, he was given the vow, he goes through the trials and tribulations, and now he comes back and is celebrating Tabernacles afterwards. And he tithed all the clean animals and made sacrifice. The unclean animals he gave not to Levi his son, and he gave him all the souls of the men. I underlined that because I want to research that further. Verse 9. And Levi discharged the priestly office at Bethel before Jacob his father, in preference to his 10 brothers. See, further back in Jubilees, Levi's already been designated as the priest. Okay, that happened long before, in the Book of Jubilees, long before Moses and the Exodus. Levi was already given the priesthood. Okay, and he was a priest there. And Jacob gave his vow. Thus he tithed again, the tithe to Yah, and he sanctified it, and it became Kodesh. Okay. And for this reason, it's ordained on the heavenly tablets as a Torah for the tithing again, the tithe to eat before Yah your tithe year to year, in the place where it is chosen that his name should dwell, and to this Torah there is no limit of days. This ordinance is written that it may be fulfilled from year to year in eating the second tithe before Yah in the place where it has been chosen, and nothing shall remain over from it from this year to the year following. Okay, the second tithe we're going to get to in just a minute. Jubilees and Genesis do not always agree. Okay, and you notice there's no Genesis over here to compare to at the moment. For in this year shall the seed be eaten till the days of the gathering of the seed of the year, and the wine till the days of the wine, and the oil till the days of its season, and all that is left thereof, and becomes old, let it be regarded as polluted. See, Yah's instruction to the priests were that you don't save this stuff past its a year, and thus let them eat it together in the sanctuary, and let them not suffer it to become old. And all the tithes of the oxen and the sheep shall be Kodesh, or set apart unto Yah, and shall belong to his priests, which they will eat before him from year to year. For thus it is ordained and engraved regarding the tithes of the heavenly tablets. Okay, so that's Tabernacles. You have to kind of lead up here to the 8th day, because here's where we start into the 8th day. In verse 16. And on the following night, on the 22nd day of this month, Yaakov resolved to build that place, and to surround the court with a wall, and to sanctify it, and make it Kodesh forever, for himself and for his children. See, he wanted to build a temple right there. He's like, this is a great place. And Yah appeared to him by night, and blessed him, and said to him, Your name shall not be called Jacob, but Yasharel shall thy name your name. Okay, I just want to point out here that this is where in Jubilees Jacob's name is changed. It's changed on the 8th day. It's changed after he fulfilled his vow to Yah and he's returned home. Then his name is changed. And this is actually recorded. This is Genesis chapter, hold on just a second. I had to look it up. This is, scroll way far up there. This is Genesis chapter 35. And Genesis chapter 35 is reading, God appeared to Jacob again when he came from Padam Aram and blessed him. And God said to him, Your name is Jacob. No longer shall your name be called Jacob, but Israel shall be your name. So he called him Israel. Now, you have to ask yourself, You see, there's two places in Genesis where his name is changed, and most people really don't catch that. It's all tradition, and we're all focused, our mind is focused on the event in Genesis only, because Jubilees doesn't tell the same story at all about Jacob and Esau. It really doesn't. You'll have to watch them and compare them, or come study with us, because we'd love to study Jubilees and Genesis like this in depth. We've learned so much from doing this. That the traditional viewpoint is that Jacob wrestles with an angel before he crosses the Jordan River, after he's always sent his family across, and that's where his name is changed. But it also has it in Genesis 35, which then matches up. The rest of this is matching up with Genesis as to what's going on. That's how I was able to match it up. So why in Genesis would his name be changed by God twice? You have to ask yourself that question. Why is it recorded in the book twice at completely different times? Because Jubilees only records it once, right here on the 8th day. That's the only place in Jubilees that it shows up. So I'm going to continue over here in Jubilees, verse 18. And he said to him again, I am Yah who created the heaven and the earth, and I will increase you and multiply you exceedingly, and the kings shall come from you, and they shall judge everywhere, wherever the foot of the sons of men has trodden. And I will give to your seed all the earth which is under heaven, and they shall judge all the nations according to their desires, and after that they shall get possession of the whole earth and inherit it forever. Oops. And he finished speaking with him, and he went up from him, and Jacob looked till he had ascended into heaven. Now, I highlighted that because I was like, wow, Jacob saw him. Moses sees, Abraham sees, and Jacob is seeing. And he's looking at him ascend up into heaven, just like Elisha saw Elijah ascend up, and the 12 apostles see the Messiah ascend up. So Jacob saw. And then after he saw the ascension, then he has a vision that night. And behold, an angel descended from heaven with 7 tablets in his hands. And he gave them to Jacob, and he read them, and knew all that was written therein, which would befall him and his sons throughout all the ages. I mean, can you imagine that? He's seeing the end from the beginning, isn't he, at this point? And he showed him all that was written on the tablets, and said to him, do not build this place, and do not make it an eternal sanctuary, and do not dwell here, for this is not the place. Now later on I'm going to remind you that, Yeshua reminded the woman at the well that this is not the place. And Jacob's being told, this is not the place. Go to the house of Abraham your father, and dwell with Isaac your father until the end of the day of your death of your father. For in Egypt you shall die in shalom, and in this land you shall be buried with honor in the sepulchre of your fathers with Abraham and Isaac. Fear not, for as you have seen and read it, thus shall it all be. And do you write down everything as you have seen and read? And Jacob said, Yah, how can I remember all the things that I've read and seen here? And he said, I will bring all these things to your remembrance. Now, this is a little aside. I'm not showing you all the notes, and I don't want to spend too much time in this text, but we are given the Ruach HaKodesh, if you read the Gospels really slowly enough, to bring into our remembrance everything the Messiah said. Same thing, bring into remembrance. Okay. As he went up from him, and he awoke from his sleep, and he remembered everything which he had seen, and he wrote down all the words which he had read and seen. Boy, would you like to read that book. Because Jacob saw all the way through time. I know we haven't seen that one yet. And he celebrated there yet another day. Okay, so here's the next day. And he sacrificed thereon to all that he sacrificed on the former days. And he called its name Addition. For this day was added, and the former days he called the feast. So the 7 days of Tabernacles, Jacob called the feast, and the 8th day he's calling an addition. And thus it was manifested that it should be, and it is written on the heavenly tablets. Wherefore it was revealed to him that he should celebrate it and add it to the 7 days of the feast. And its name was called Addition, because that it was recorded amongst the days of the feast days according to the number of the days of the year. So that addition is not really what we call it. We don't call it an additional day. Okay? Shemini Atzeret means eighth. It's the eighth. And it's an assembly. It's not necessarily an addition. And that's another word study that would be interesting to do someday. Now I'm going to keep reading, and we're going to talk about this part next week, because it's an important type and shadow of the end times. Prophecy relates to the book of Revelation. And in the night on the 23rd of this month, Deborah, Rebekah's nurse, died, and they buried her beneath the city under the oak of the river, and he called the name of this place the river of Deborah, and the oak of the mourning of Deborah. And Rebekah went and returned to her house to his father Isaac, and Jacob sent by her rams and sheep and he-goats, that she would prepare for his father a meal such as he desired. Because when you read in Jubilees, Isaac was too old and not well enough to go to the feast. So he sent Rebekah. So Rebekah went with her son. So I'm going to stop right here, because you can see that Genesis is following this along. I mean, it says here, and Deborah, Rebekah's nurse, died. So it's recording this, and I can line them up. But Genesis is lacking. This whole thing about the 8th day and Jacob celebrating the 8th day is just not there. It does record the name change, but that's where it stops. Okay, so I'm going to go back and stop reading out of Jubilees right now. Okay. Now remember, Jacob's great 8th day is all about having returned to his father. He's paying his vow, and he's celebrating the feast. Now he returned to his father before he fell asleep. He got returned to his father while he was alive, and as we say someone died in Scripture, we call it falling asleep. Okay, so before he fell asleep, he's returned to his father and pays his vow. And what is the last line in the commonly called Old Testament? Because I know different versions of Scripture have different endings to the quote-unquote Old Testament. In the King James, Malachi is the last book before you hit Matthew. So Malachi chapter 4, and I'm going to read verses 5 and 6. Behold, I will send you Elijah the prophet before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord. And he shall turn the hearts of the fathers to the children, and the heart of the children to their fathers, lest I come and smite the earth with a curse. Malachi, it's from Malachi. Okay, he's going to return the heart of the children to their fathers. They're going to return to their father, and it's a heart thing. Okay. I want you to ask yourself, did Jacob give an offering for an additional day because of any written set of rules that existed? The answer is no. Did Jacob give an offering for an additional day because his father told him that he had to? The answer is no. Do you do only what is written and nothing more? I hope your answer is no. I see Jacob giving an offering for an additional day because it was a heart thing. He acted on this day not from what Father Abraham had passed down as Torah for the family, but from a deep place of love for Elohim, who had seen him through his tribulation in this world. Remember, he was excited that he had gotten a vow and that he got to come home safe with his family. Now, Abraham celebrated the first Tabernacles. That's last week's 29 video. Because he was joyful about being a part of the family of the living Elohim. That's why Abraham celebrated Tabernacles. And he built tabernacles for all his family. Now, you can be joyful about that, but still not have experienced your dark night of the soul. You may not have experienced yet many trials and tribulations, or shall I say possibly the end times tribulation. Did you catch what Jacob was excited about? You've got to get this. He was delivered. It had already happened. He returned home to his father safe and sound with his family. He had already been through trials and tribulations in this world and was extremely grateful, and he wanted to say thank you. He was expressing his joy and his thanksgiving. Now, can you imagine the everlasting joy of the Lamb of Elohim when he returns home to his father with his family? The harvest is over. He has found all his lost sheep, and he brought his entire family back home safely. That is going to be something to be thankful about. Even Yeshua Jesus is going to be thankful. Ask yourself, what does love really mean? Is it about receiving or you giving? Make sure you watch our word study on the paleo meaning of love and its connection to giving to understand why I am emphasizing this in relationship to this Kodesh Mikra. Your Heavenly Father wants to know you love Him. Testing, trials, and tribulation are all through Scripture, and Jacob is the one establishing the pattern to follow for this particular feast day. Now let's move forward in time. The 12 tribes became lost in the wilderness after Malachi, before Malachi was even written, and even afterwards. The 12 tribes are lost in the wilderness, scattered into many nations, tribes, and tongues, which started in 722 BC, and again in 586 BC, and again in 70 AD, with only a small, after 586, only a small minority of the people from Judah and Benjamin returned to build the second temple. They were the Jews. They returned, but it was a minority. Now let's move forward in time to when the Apostle James wrote his Sefer, and the very first verse of his Sefer reads, James, a servant of Elohim, and Yahushua HaMashiach, to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad. Greetings. That's the first verse. Now did you catch that? The 12 tribes scattered abroad. He did not say the 10 tribes scattered abroad. He would have certainly been aware of the people who returned from Babylon to Jerusalem, would he not? And he didn't say 10 tribes, he said 12. Now let's move forward in time and talk about the son of Elohim. So Jacob laid the foundation for the great 8th day and the events that unfolded with the death of Deborah. And that's a picture I'm going to talk about next week. I don't want to spoil it right now. Let's see how this unfolds through the time as Jesus, Yeshua the Messiah, he's coming to his lost sheep. Let's read from 2 verses in Matthew. The first one, Matthew 10:6. But go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. That's his instructions to his apostles. And he's being asked a question, and so now he's talking about himself. Matthew 15:24. But he answered and said, I am not sent, but unto the lost sheep of the house of Israel. So Jacob, who begins the great 8th day, had 12 sons, who became many peoples, who split into 2 houses, and became the scattered lost sheep, the 12 tribes of scattered lost sheep. And Yeshua Jesus, the son of Abraham, the son of Isaac, the son of Jacob, is come for the lost sheep. Now Abraham built tabernacles for his family, and Jacob was told not to build out that place that he was celebrating the great 8th day and make it into a temple or a permanent place. King David was actually told not to make a house for Yahuwah either, and this is a part where Chronicles, Chronicles, Kings, and 2 Samuel do not agree. You need to study that out for yourself. Okay? I go read 2 Samuel chapter 7 from the beginning slowly, and I'm only going to read verse 11 here, which says, quote, And as since the time that I commanded judges to be over my people Israel, and have caused thee to rest from all thine enemies, Also the Lord telleth thee that he will make thee a house. The prophet Nathan was instructed to tell David that Yah is going to make him the house. So even King David is told, don't build. I know there is conflict, but you're just going to have to study that out for yourself. Now, and if you want me to study it out for you, you need to say so in the comments. Everything takes time, and I have to decide what to spend my time on, just like everybody else. Okay, now Messiah is the promised one to build the house as he told his disciples and his family in John. I'm going to go to chapter 14, and I'm going to read verses 2 and 3. In my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you. I'm going to go build a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you unto myself, that where I am, there ye may also be. Okay. Our kinsman redeemer of Yah's family, who came for his lost sheep, is going to return and come get his bride. See, this is all bridal talk right here. And we've talked about this. Go back to the Festival of New Wine videos to hear all about that. He builds the place we end up, which is tabernacles. It's a type and shadow of. So he's going to build us our tabernacle. Remember from last week that it was Abraham who built the tabernacles for his family in his day. And in his ministry on earth, Yeshua Jesus started the process of seeking the lost sheep, his lost family, bringing them home in this world and in the world to come. Do you remember at the beginning of Messiah's ministry, his conversation with someone at Jacob's well? I'm going to read to you from John chapter 4, verses 20 and 21. Our fathers worshipped in this mountain. This is the woman at the well speaking to him. And ye say that in Jerusalem is the place where men ought to worship. And Yeshua said unto her, Woman, believe me, the hour cometh, when ye shall neither in this mountain, nor yet in Jerusalem, worship the Father. So the Messiah, the Son of the living Elohim, is saying that there will come a time when that will not be the place. Just a few verses prior, he told her he had the living waters to give her that are not connected to the physical well of Jacob. This is coming from John chapter 4, verse 10. Yeshua answered and said unto her, If thou knewest the gift of Elohim, and who it is that saith to thee, Give me to drink, thou wouldest asked of him, and he would have given thee living water. His living waters come from somewhere else. John 4, verse 11. The woman saith unto him, Sir, thou hast nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. From whence hast thou these living waters? See, she doesn't understand. He's talking about something else. He goes into the Jerusalem temple physically on the great 8th day and announces the living waters again. I'm going to read it to you this time from John chapter 7, verses 33 through 38, and I'm going to comment along the way. First verse. Then said Yeshua unto them, Yet a little while I am with you, and then I go unto him that sent me. Ye shall seek me, and shall not find me, and where I am, thither you cannot come. Now when a Hebrew groom leaves his betrothed to return to his father's house to build a place for her, she can't come see it. He must return to get her only when the father says, Come. That's the whole, go back to the Festival of New Wine. That's the whole thing about the parable of the wise and foolish virgins. Then said the Jews among themselves, back into John, Whither will he go, that we shall not find him? Will he go unto the dispersed among the Gentiles and teach the Gentiles? What manner of saying is this, that he said, Ye shall seek me, and shall not find me, where I am, thither ye cannot come? Now it seems really like they don't know him, or who he is just at all, practically, at this point, to me. It's just, they have no clue. Next verse. In the last day, the great day of the feast, Yeshua stood and cried, saying, If any man thirst, let him come unto me and drink. So this is the last day, because it says it's the great day. It's the addition day of Jacob. So Jacob's progeny, we believe both Judah and Levi in the physical world, meaning Messiah. I mean, Jacob's progeny, who's both from Judah and Levi. That's another study for another day. Some people teach on this already. And the son of Elohim, who told them his kingdom was not of this world. You see, the son of Elohim has already told them his kingdom is not of this world. And he makes this announcement. He that believeth on me, as the scripture hath said, out of his belly shall flow rivers of living water. Now, some key words that you want to do a deep word studies on are believeth, belly, and living water. We've done those and really examined this verse. And we're not going to do this here right now. Come join us for our Academy studies. You see, he is offering something from the throne of his Father that he sits down upon with him, and has offered to the overcomers to sit with him in Revelation 3:21. And later in the book of Revelation, in chapter 22, verse 17, we have the end times. We have an 8th day picture of the living waters being offered for free. It says in verse 17, and the Spirit and the bride say, Come, and let him that heareth say, Come, and let him that is athirst come, and whosoever will, let him take the water of life freely. So are you waiting for a physical manifestation of the kingdom and not obeying his voice by accident, by tradition, unconsciously? You see, the Spirit and the bride are saying this to people who are on the earth. Are you waiting for a physical manifestation of the kingdom and not obeying this voice by accident, by tradition, and unconsciously? Many have been. Listen closely to what the Apostle Matthew wrote in chapter 6, verse 33. But seek ye first the kingdom of Elohim and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Ask yourself, did Jesus, Yeshua, say this to people so that they would wait for something to happen way in the future? Or were they to be actively doing something in their present moment? Were the things that were to be added unto them, as promised, for some future kingdom in time? Or was the help that was going to come, the things that were going to be added unto them, happen to them in their present circumstances, in a living relationship with a living Elohim in their right here and now, and in your right here and now? Maybe this is why Mark recorded for us in chapter 12, verse 30, and thou shalt love Yeshua thy Elohim with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy mind, and with all thy strength. This is the first commandment. The first commandment. Has entering the kingdom right here, right now, like he said you were to do, become your top priority yet? Is making sure you are a wise virgin and not a foolish one become important to you yet? Our channel has done a mini word series on the throne and its foundational qualities that are so important to opening understanding of the fall Boadim feasts. If you have not watched those, I highly recommend that you don't miss them. Living waters flowing from the throne of mercy and justice. Go watch the mercy word study. Listen to Jubilees chapter 1. I'm about to read a couple of verses, which I consider a covenant-making chapter worthy of great study. Verse 22, Jubilees chapter 1. And Yah said to Moses, I know their contrariness and their thoughts and their stiff-neckedness, and they will not be obedient till they confess their own sin and the sin of their fathers. And after this, they will turn to me in all uprightness, with all their heart and with all their soul. And I will circumcise the foreskin of their heart and the foreskin of the heart of their seed. And I will create in them a Kodesh spirit. And I will cleanse them so that they will not turn away from me until the days of eternity. So you must turn and repent and seek his righteousness with all your heart and your soul. This is Jubilees chapter 1. Does that sound familiar? Does this sound like you wait for a physical kingdom to manifest first? Let's continue. Verse 24. And their souls will cleave to me and to all my commandments, and they will fulfill my commandments, and I will be their father, and they shall be my children. Remember the fathers and children getting connected back together? And they all shall be called children of the living Yah, and every Malach, angel, and every spirit shall know, yes, they shall know that these are my children, and I am their father in uprightness and in righteousness, and that I love them. Did you hear the ending? That I love them. I urge you to take a little more of your time and listen to the word study on love that I did this week. It's part of the Throne series. It's so important to understand that word in Paleo-Hebrew, in the Yehudiath, and let it soak in. Now, I've intentionally left out the type and shadow of Deborah's death out of this video, and I'm going to include it next week in our concluding mini-series word study on truth and the final discussion of the throne. So be sure to join us next week. And you don't want to miss out either on the new online store. The link is in the description box, because we have just opened it and started with a collection of covenant products and services, including clothing and house items, posters, t-shirts, mugs, with graphic designs of our word studies on them. So if you want to wear the throne and the qualities of throne on you and contemplate them every day, go get a t-shirt. We take some of our thumbnails that people seem to really like, and I've put them on things too. We hope you enjoy it. Click the Academy link in our store to learn about our courses that we offer in Yehudiath Paleo-Hebrew. If you enjoyed this video, please click like and leave us a comment. Are there any words you'd like to see us do studies on? Write them in the comments. Shalom.
He is somebody, yeah. Body all the time, never takes a break, he's always right. Working all day and every night. Money all the time, he never shifts at all, he stays the same. It'll never ever change.